So, I bought two PowerMac G5s. I bought them secondhand of some guy on the internet. I bought them pretty cheap. This one does power on, and it even got some expansion slots like firewire and a graphics card. And this one does not power on. It's dead. I'm not really gonna bother getting it to work because I only bought them for the chassis. So this one I'm gonna start with modifying. This one is also the prettiest. It is in the best condition of the two. The other one that does power on got some scratches and stuff. This one only got a little bit, so it's not that bad. The entire PowerMac G5 is actually, it surprised me. It's really heavy, but as soon as you open it, you will see that it is really well constructed. Apple had some really good engineers on this project, and they also kept the design for the next generations until the trash can, as you know today. One of the CPUs is original, and the other one I think have been upgraded or put in later on, because the color of the heatsink is not the same, and one of them had like a funny sticker, like it was bought on eBay or Amazon or something like that. And this one is not with the water cooling solution. The one that does power on is the one with the water cooling in it. And so far it does not have any leaks, which is good, because it is still functioning and can power on and stuff. Here I am struggling with getting the DVD-ROM out. There isn't really much room in here. Everything is just meant to fit in place, and it really does. Apple has really thought of everything in this chassis. The airflow optimization is really good, and the front and the back is all mesh. And I think it's one of the prettiest chassis ever. Here you can see the front I/O cable. I did cut this in half, and I soldered on some old wires from old chassis so I can use the button in the front to power on and use the USB as well. I did try to get the audio jack in the front working as well, but I couldn't really get the stereo working. And after I had soldered and burnt myself a few times, I just gave up and used an old front I/O from an old chassis I had laying around. Also, I sometimes go to LAN parties, and it is nice to have a mic and an audio, and there's only an audio in the front. All the screws you can see I'm taking out here, they're all from the CPU. The CPU themselves, I think they weigh around 1 kilogram or 2 pounds each. It's not the CPU that is so heavy, just the heatsink is really big and bulky. And the one system that does power on, at idle it is fairly quiet, but as soon as you play a video or start browsing pictures and or something like that, it starts to spin up all the fans, and it gets really warm, and you can even hear and feel the heat come out of the back. Here you can see the massive motherboard. There are even coolers and chips on the back. I do like the color of the motherboard. It's actually a really nice dark blue color, even though you're never really gonna see it. This is just a steel plate to separate the two airflow channels from the power supply and the CPU. There's a bit of steel in the chassis, even though it is, I would say 80% aluminium, and of course some plastic as well. I'm not sure how many fans their original is in this case, but there's a lot. The power supply itself got 2, and there's 2 in the back and 2 in the front, and 1 at the hard drives and 1 next to that one. There's just lots of fans. And I even think was a fan as well in front of the graphics card, so like 7 fans. It's a lot of fans. I did end up ruining the hard drive cage, even though I want to recycle it and use it later on in the build. It was a bit annoying, but I couldn't really get it out in any other way. And as you can see here, there isn't really much room to work with. And I couldn't really find a way to take it apart without bending any of the important like chassis parts. So I sacrificed the hard drive bay and as well as the fans next to it. And at this point I didn't know I wanted to use them as well. So I learned that one. But I got another case, so in the next case I'm gonna modify, I'm just gonna wreck the hard drive cage. It took quite a bit of force as well. The plastic is really thick and strong in this case, and the case is also really heavy. I think it weighs like 40 pounds or something like that. It's really heavy. And here you can see the power supply. It's 600 watt. It's quite a big power supply, even by today's standards. And here you can see I'm cutting some of the plastic, because it didn't really break, it just bended. So it was really a struggle to get it out. I think I spent over an hour where we had to pause the recording, and I had to look around and try to get it out and start again, and it just took so much time. But in the end I did get it out. And now for the hard drive cage. I also had to cut that one. My brother is pointing out I can just cut these, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. If some of you guys got any good advice or tips on how to get the hard drive cage out without snipping off the bottom, please leave a comment, because I would like to know. Or if somebody worked at Apple and built these things in the first place, how did you get them up there? And that's about it.